Hey, Taoping Airlines Math Industry, and we're going to be looking at rational and irrational numbers. We have been taking a look at fractions, decimals, and percentages. So rational numbers and irrational numbers also apply to the same subject. So what do these definitions mean? Well, a ratio number is a number that can be turned into a fraction or is already a fraction. So 14 over 1 is also a ratio number, and we can say that 4 over 1 is also a ratio number. If we say a whole number like 18, we can easily turn it into a fraction. That is a ratio number. Not only ratio numbers can be turned into fractions, but they also mean that numbers that don't have decimals that keep going on forever and ever. So you can easily turn them into fractions. So remember, a ratio number is a number that can be turned into a fraction or is already a fraction. Like this.
You are making this ride even more boring. Except for things possible. You're supposed to remain seated until the ride comes to an end. What was that?
Attention, sweethearts. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please remain seated.
Oh, great. Just great.
So as you saw SpongeBob and Pearl get stuck in the amusement ride at the fairgrounds, the ride suddenly stopped, and that kind of relates with this, because with rational numbers, there are no decimals that keep repeating and repeating. There is no such thing as a fraction with a decimal, so that's why it doesn't apply. On the other hand, irrational numbers are numbers that cannot be turned into a fraction. So they will keep repeating, and repeating. Like this, for example.
Are no laughing matter. Why, once I met this guy, who knew 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 this guy's cousin.
You're right! I should be more careful.
So that was an example of an irrational number. Numbers that will always repeat and repeat and repeat and never have an ending. So it'll go on and on and on. Here's an example. Is 8 an rational or an irrational number? Well, if it's turned into a fraction, it'll be irrational. So yeah. Okay, so next question. Is 0.33 repeating rational or irrational? Well, you might have thought it's irrational because 0.33 will keep going 333. That's actually incorrect because we can turn it into 1/3. So pretty much, you have to look at, can this number become a fraction? And if not, then it's irrational. Irrational numbers cannot be fractions. So 0.33 repeating is the same thing as saying 1 over 3 as a fraction, or 33.3% as a percentage. Is 0.127127 a rational number? No, because it keeps repeating and repeating, and there are decimals along the way that go on forever and ever. So that is irrational. What happens if you come across a number that is square rooted? Well, we have to find the square root of the number, so 36 would be 6, and 6 can be a rational number because it can be turned into a fraction. So yeah. Here's the last one. 1/4. Is that rational or irrational? Type in the comments below. Well, the fraction 1/4 is already rational because it's already a fraction. So we don't really have to do anything because it's already in its fraction form. I hope this video has helped you understand irrational and rational numbers. And thank you for watching Taoping Airlines Math Industry. Like and subscribe.